Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why today's news about LeBron could actually hurt his legacy.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you if dismantling the Legion of Boom is actually the right move for my Seahawks. Speak for yourself starts now. They're mine. I'm from the Northwest, so when they win, they're mine. When they lose, they're yours.
Hello and welcome. We're joined today by three-time Pro Bowler D'Angelo Hall and former Giants star Jason Sehorn. Let's start in Seattle, where reportedly the Seahawks have traded outspoken defensive lineman Michael Bennett to the Eagles for not much of anything, really. The news broke today right on the heels of a report that Richard Sherman had informed teammates that he will not be back with the team either. Cowherd, is it smart for the Seahawks to clean house?
Yeah. Last year, once that ESPN article came out, my takeaway was, how do you reel that one back in? Multiple players taking shots at Russell Wilson, that leaves a mark. That to me, there was a disruption. There was a lot of non-football stuff. You know, you and I have talked about this. I love Pete Carroll, but the Seahawks have become USC. He walks in, incredible energy, the rebuild begins. Then they have about a 4 to 5 years window. Everybody buys in, pro player. And then it starts to unravel. It gets loose. It got loose at USC. It's now loose in Seattle. It's not buttoned up. Belichick's thing has lasted 17 years. He runs it. Assistant coaches aren't allowed to talk. Seattle's locker room, which is pro player, we're 7, 8 years in now. It is falling apart. I love Pete. It works. He's a great rebuilder. His energy is infectious. But USC after 8 years and Seattle after 8 years, they both are unraveling.
Everything in life, and particularly everything in sports, has an expiration date. And so, yeah, I think it's smart. The Legion of Boom has gotten old. They probably talk a better game than they actually play. So this is the right move. I think what's going to end up happening here is the regret, though, that they had this core together for a long time and only got one Super Bowl. That there will haunt the Legion of Boom from being an all-time great compared to the Ravens or someone like that. But yeah, do I think it's time for them to clean house? Yes. Will they live with the regret of only getting one Super Bowl? Yes.
They'll have to. But to your point about Pete Carroll, the problem here is he's a player's coach, right? He comes in, the players like to play for him. Well, what happens with a player's coach is over 8 years, when people get to know who you are and know what that line is, they push that line, and they push that line. It's human nature, and Pete allows them to push that line. He allows them to have the voice. He allows them to be free and be who you are. You know, he does everything behind closed doors, not in the press. Well, the players begin to take advantage and get too far out of hand, and you have what you had last year, where they're now running the locker room instead of the coach running the locker room. And I don't think it's his style that's the problem. It's the fact that over the course of time, the players become the problem, and they don't buy in to the fact that we're this team unit. Like, they drew a line in the sand last year, offense and defense. And you know, when you draw a line in the locker room, people have to pick sides. They got to be like, oh, I agree with him or I disagree with him. Press comes in, asks questions to Richard Sherman. You said this about Russell Wilson. Other players have to agree or disagree. I mean, they have to either defend him or go, no, I don't believe in that. And you have a problem in your locker room, and you cannot have locker room discontent and still be successful.
I think that defense has been the face of that team for so long, and when they're not playing great and they're struggling and a lot of their leaders are hurt, you know, they then said, look, you know, I know we're not doing too good, so let's kind of point the finger somewhere else a little bit. And, you know, like he said, anytime you have a player's coach like that, like Pete Carroll is, if you give guys an inch, especially in the National Football League when they're making all this money, if you give a guy an inch, they will take a mile. And Pete, everybody I know who knows him loves him as a coach. But like Jason said, after a while, it just wears thin, and they're able to do whatever they want to do.
By the way, losing does this. You know, it wasn't like there was all this harmony when they were winning. I mean, they had their issues in the locker room.
I think it was perceived harmony. You know?
Yeah, I think so,
you know,
too.
Anytime you win.
They understood what their locker room was when they won. It was okay.
They had a small issue. It's not small, but they had a little issue with Russell Wilson and his personality. Didn't fit the stereotype that they were looking for. But I think for the most part it worked. I think the conversation that's about to take place is going to be, did they get too political and too noisy? And, you know, I think Ian Rappaport had a report that they want a quieter locker room. Let's talk about politics. And I think there's some truth to that. But I think at the end of the day, the reason why this is breaking up and the reason why the disharmony is there it's all about Marshawn Lynch on that 1 yard line. That's what's
They've never
split the
gotten over
team.
that.
No, and again, when you've licensed your players to be outspoken, and you got Richard Sherman and everybody questioning your decision, and you're that type of coach. Again, look over at New England, like you referenced. They set Malcolm Butler. And players are biting their tongue, afraid to question Bill Belichick about sitting.
You're right.
But they make a decision on 4th down here, and 2-3 years later, they still talking.
3 years
about
later, Sherman's still talking about that. It still eats at him, and it has to eat a lot of people. And because Pete allows them the voice, they have that voice.
You know, the other thing, though, there's a great hypocrisy. Social media allows people that have never had a voice to have one. Great. The other thing that's the downside of social media is this mob mentality. Everybody now, unless you're for athletes being political, that's racially insensitive.
Yes.
So owners, I am for kneeling. GMs, coaches, kneeling is progress. But the political team in the NFL, the minute they can get rid of politically active Michael Bennett and Richard Sherman, out the door. The internet is great, and Twitter and social media, it does give a voice to those who've never had it, but it also creates a mob. And everybody in the National Football League is petrified to say this: we'd rather you keep your politics out of football, at least during the games on Sundays for 3 hours.
But what's funny about that is the players I don't care about your politics. Speak your mind. We've all been told, you have this platform, you finally get there and you use it, and someone says, but don't use it like that. Like, well, what, you disagree with it? It's like, you think about, conservative speak, it's like, well, don't take a knee for the national anthem. But guns now, the Second Amendment, at all costs, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's talk about them both equally. You get the right to do both. You get the right to take a knee in this country if you feel like it, and you get to have a gun if you feel like it. You can't have one without the other. You can't say yes to one and no to the other. The locker room divides when players attack players, not when players attack the system, not when players have a problem with society. I don't care if somebody thinks differently in the locker. There's 53 guys. We don't think alike. I care when he criticizes my teammate. Now I got to take a side.
Let me tell you the people that do care, and I'm going to turn it to D'Angelo. What your thoughts on this? If I'm the owner and I'm paying you the kind of money NFL players are making today, not what Jason made at the beginning of his career, what players are making today.
Oh, can we just talk about that? Salary cap was $34 million in 1994. It's 180 today.
Yeah. And so if I'm paying you that much money, it's like, hey, man, I hear you. I just want you to focus on this football, though, because this is what I'm paying you for. Do your protests and all that other stuff someplace else.
See,
I'm paying you a lot of money to play football.
I think if those conversations were had, people would, okay. I mean, you don't know unless you know. And so I'm pretty sure that Richard Sherman and Michael Bennett weren't told to be quiet or don't voice your opinion or don't be too political, because I think if they were, even though they probably would not have liked it, I think they would have kind of conformed a little bit, because they would have understood the bigger picture. Hey, this is kind of weighing on the team. This is doing that or whatnot. But I don't think they were ever told. No one came in our locker room and said, hey, don't do this, don't do that. It was never said. It was never addressed. Not in mine. But so I'm pretty positive it was not going on in Seattle's locker room either.
But we both talked about Pete being a player's coach. You think they had that conversation about, biting your tongue? No, he was like, be you. He always says that, be who you are. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to get the best player if you're who you are and not being, bridled. Well, that went too far in their mind? Well, why? Like you've always said, be who you are. Now all of a sudden, we don't like who you are?
And these guys, these guys didn't just change overnight. They've been who they are. Excuse me. I remember me and Richard Sherman getting into it back and forth. We've always been outspoken as DBs and defensive guys. That's kind of who we are. And so, I mean, Richard Sherman was this guy before. And so for them to now finally say, hey, enough's enough, that's what makes me think that there's other
money.
factors into this equation. It's not just the political aspect.
We have very little time, but there's one other just very important thing I want to get to quickly. Cowherd. A lot of pressure on Russell Wilson now. They're talking about Cam Chancellor gone, Chris Averill gone. Obviously, Sherman seems to be on his way out. Michael Bennett. This team is being turned over to Russell Wilson. Can he perform like Aaron Rodgers?
Well, my knock, Pete Carroll, and this happened at the end at USC. He forgot to recruit offensive linemen. When Lane Kiffin took over, I had a conversation. We got no offensive linemen for practice. Seattle's offensive line's a mess. The minute they traded away Max Unger, it's never been the same. Russell Wilson, if given a good offensive line, can win. It's the one area Pete, to me, neglected at the end at USC and the last few years in Seattle. So we blame Russell Wilson. This was Pete, a defensive coach, pouring all his money to the defensive side. John Snyder, you know what I think they're saying? Who's the one guy we can depend on for the next 8 years? It's Russell. Let's now shift the paradigm to give him the support.
Do y'all buy that, though? Is Russell a guy that can carry a team? Because I guarantee you, Richard Sherman, Michael Bennett, and them are gospel. Like, man, we've been carrying this dude.
Yeah.
And is he a guy that can carry?
Those kind of things pop up in their head. But absolutely. I played against him last year. First time back on the field in 15 months, and I had to go against that guy. And for as much as you watch him on film, you don't really appreciate the artistry of how great he is unless you're out there. I mean, he was running all around, extending the play. And part of it, like you said, Colin, they don't have an offensive line that allows him the opportunity to just sit back there. So the average fan might say, hey, Russell just likes to move around. He likes to run. No, he didn't have any time. He had to run to extend plays. But that offense, I don't know who that offensive coordinator is, but that offense they need to protect him, and they need to just come up with better schemes because he was just out there playing basketball. He was one-on-one playing basketball with guys.
If we watch the film and we see Russell Wilson sitting in the pocket and not making the right reads and not making the right throws, then it's on him. If we see Russell Wilson running for his life, that's not on him. If he doesn't have time to take the concept of an offense is you take a 3, a 5, or a 7-step drop, and when you hit that drop, you know where to go with the football. Well, if you're hitting that drop and a guy's right here and you're now scrambling outside the pocket, that's not on you as a quarterback.
Jason, that's an excuse, though. Can Russell Wilson carry
Absolutely.
this team?
But I think it's going to be a whole lot better if he actually gets to play quarterback from the pocket instead of, like you said, scrambling, extending plays every single time. When you're the guy who has to put everything on your back in all forms, running and passing, it makes it difficult as a quarterback.
How come you support Alex Smith and you never buy into Russell Wilson?
Oh, he shook his head.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a bias against short quarterbacks. Seriously. That's
Drew Brees?
I don't like short quarterbacks. Drew Brees throws I call him the dirty little secret. He throws terrible interceptions because he's short. I like a quarterback 6'3" or taller. That's a bias. I grew up with Jeff George.
Okay.
Brian Schottenheimer is the offensive coordinator in Seattle. Marty's son.
Hey guys, Jason McIntyre here. Before the show moves along, I wanted to tell you that support for the Speak for Yourself podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. They understand that home plays a big role in your life and family. That's why they created Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage gives you the confidence you need when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. It's simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Whether you're looking to buy your first home or your 10th, with Rocket Mortgage you get a transparent online process that gives you the confidence to make an informed decision. It's convenient. Our trusted partners allow you to share your financial information with Rocket Mortgage at the touch of a button. And in addition to getting a real mortgage approval in minutes, you can even adjust the rate and length of your loan in real time to make sure you're getting the right solution for you. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/speak. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
D'Angelo Hall, Jason Sehorn are back. Let's move to Kirk Cousins, whose agent says the quarterback has not ruled out any teams, although we know he has, despite reports that he's narrowed his free agent search down to the Vikings and the Jets. Cousins is now being openly courted by players across the league, including Von Miller, who says Cousins would make the Broncos an automatic Super Bowl contender. There's only, of course, one problem. He hasn't actually won anything. Since 2015, he's got a lower winning percentage than the likes of Brock Osweiler and Sam Bradford. Whitlock, weigh in. Is Cousins worth all this adulation?
I don't get it. And I kind of like Kirk Cousins, but I know exactly who he is. And it's like everybody's got beer goggles on and they think it's last call at the bar. And it's, and so his value has exceeded what he actually is. Von Miller, these guys think he's the key to winning the Super Bowl in Denver. I think that's too much of a burden, even as great as their defense is. I think somebody's going to really, really overpay for Kirk Cousins and be at the right price. I like him, but I'm not sure if he's much better. What we saw from Case Keenum this year, to me, is a best-case scenario for Kirk Cousins on a Super Bowl contender, and I just don't know if you guarantee that dude the kind of money everybody's talking about giving him.
I have a lot of opinions on this, but I would really like to hear D'Angelo's thought. Since you played with him, and here's my thought before you go. When a team says, you're good, we don't want you, we're going to take that guy. Like, think about it. They have a guy in-house. Quarterback is the most important part of a team. You got to have that player. And the Washington Redskins have said, we have one in-house. We don't want him. We want the one over there. Bring this guy over here.
See, you hear that.
Yes.
Okay. What I hear from kind of how things have unfolded is a little different. I hear, hey, we like you. We want you. We want you. But this is kind of what we want you for, this price tag here. And I see a guy who says, I want this, period. I want this. I think my value is this. And so it's not a situation, I've said from the jump, if money was not a factor, I'd take Kirk Cousins over any of these other free agent quarterbacks. Just because I know him, I know I can trust him, I know the kind of guy he is, I know he's going to prepare, and I know he's going to be a really good player. Like you said, he's probably not a great player, you know. I give the great players are the guys who have Super Bowl rings right now, you know. And so I don't give him quite that mantra yet, but at the same time, I can't look at just his numbers and say, oh, because he's not winning games. I played on some of those defenses, and so I'm a little bit to blame too. We're all to blame. It's not strictly on him, the quarterback, to win those games. I felt, not the front office, no one else, I felt personally as though he just didn't want to be there because Kurt is a very smart guy. He's very calculated. He's very mature, beyond his years sometimes. And so knowing how smart he is, I thought he would be smart enough to say, hey, if I take $25 million, which is a lot of money, maybe I can go get another receiver. Maybe I can get a really good running back. Maybe I can get another offensive lineman. Heck, maybe I can get a pass rusher on defense that'll help turn the ball over. Instead, I felt like he said, it's not about the money, but I want X amount % of the salary cap. I feel like that's fair, and that's what I want. And so for me, I kind of felt like, well, Kurt, we have a little bit of holes that we need to, fix. And we just can't be the kind of team we want to be and keep moving forward and pay you that type of money. He's going to get it. It's free agency. You get, guys.
You pay for that position.
You overpay in free agency, period.
Yeah, especially for that position.
You would expect a guy who's been in your organization that you've given a chance to not take a hometown discount, but see the big picture. And that's all I wanted him to do was see the big picture. And he could go to the Jets and get $30 million a year, or he could go somewhere else where they have a little more weapons, where they have a more complete team, where they're kind of a quarterback away. But I don't think that number's still going to be $30 million if he goes to one of those teams that has other guys.
On the show today, he was interesting. D'Angelo called it's the prenup. The franchise tag is the prenup. We like you, but there's some qualifiers. We're writing stuff in.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, what you said is right. A lot of women are like, no, I'm offended. The franchise tag, they don't give it to bums.
No.
It's all stars. But the prenup, by the way, you do it because the earner thinks, I want to protect myself. That's why teams do it. We like you, we don't love you. And I think to your point, the Redskins offered a prenup, and he was so offended that he never emotionally came all the way back in. I think it's a really interesting point.
And I think the point, though, where I love this prenup analogy, is if it were the Patriots, the Broncos, somebody with a great Super Bowl pedigree.
Yes.
You know, Denzel Washington can put a prenup on the paper and be like, hey, baby, sign right here on the dotted line. If I slide that prenup over, she spits on me. What are you talking about?
Right. Some of this is the Redskins have been, could I argue this? The Redskins have been fairly dysfunctional. Kirk's probably thinking, I ended all the chaos. I gave you stability. I'm not signing a prenup. I'm not, because I do think the franchise tag, there was a reservoir of anger here. Yeah. He didn't like
that. He didn't get that commitment. And what you said is interesting to me. You said basically also from the Washington standpoint with him wanting to go is we are more than just a quarterback away from winning. I mean, you're saying we need a running back, a receiver, a defense, like you need some pieces. So from Washington's standpoint, now all of a sudden, hearing you see a different light. You're like, it's kind of brilliant. You go get the guy over there, discard the guy you've been paying $25 million a year to, okay? Save yourself $10 million by paying Alex Smith, whatever, and go buy some more pieces in free agency. Now you're a better football team?
Isn't it crazy? I mean, to me, it would be so obvious. Go make 18 with the Vikings. 2-star receivers. Dalvin Cook comes back.
A defense
That holds everybody to 18 points. Good. I can't believe you said he's smart. It's so obvious.
It's money right now, though.
He's kept this negotiation and just his feelings so close to the vest. Like even guys in the locker room really didn't know, how he felt about the situation because he never really talked about it. And so until he comes out and makes a decision and we can kind of judge for ourselves, hey, is he going strictly for the money? Is he going to a better team? We're all kind of in the same situation where we just don't know. And I told somebody earlier, until Kurt sits down and gives an interview and we kind of pick his brain, no one can really know what went wrong and how things transpired and how he perceived things. All I can do is say, as being in that locker room, this is how I felt like he perceived it.
All right, welcome back. We're joined now by longtime NBA player Olden Polynice and the founder of the Big League, Jason McIntyre. Let's stay right here in Los Angeles, where some Lakers fans have bought billboards around the city in an attempt to recruit LeBron James away from Cleveland. Just a week after some 76ers fans pulled the same stunt buying billboards around Cleveland. Now, with the new look Cavs looking a lot like the old look Cavs, it seems more and more likely LeBron could dump the Cavs for the second time. Cowherd, would a move to L.A. tarnish LeBron's legacy?
It is his legacy. Moving is his legacy. That's like asking if fast food's going to hurt Burger King's legacy. I mean, when I think of LeBron, I think the player empowerment superstar. MJ was the first global icon. Magic and Bird saved the league. LeBron.
Let me flip the script then. Is mobility? He'll be known more for mobility than winning. Is that a good legacy?
He'll be known for both. By the way, if he moves to LA and wins, and he would, Lonzo can play, Ingram can play, Kuzma can play, Randall can play, winning.
Durant can play, Steph Curry
I'm
can
not
play.
saying he's beating them,
Green can play.
But what if he goes there in 4 years and they get to a final or two? He won a
4 years.
When he's 40 or 52, what?
4 years will be 37.
How many more years do you think he's going to play?
5,
Oh,
6.
no.
Brady's going to play 3 more, and
There's not enough years for LeBron to do anything that's going to affect anything that's happened in the past for the Lakers. It's absolutely nothing. Now, if he goes to the Clippers, I could see something happening. But you got Wilt, Magic, Kareem, Shaq. You got Kobe with 2 jerseys retired. There's nothing he can do short of 10 championships.
But Olden, he doesn't need to get his name among the Laker greats of all time. He's already cemented his legacy, Whitlock.
Yes,
he is in the
does.
discussion with Michael Jordan. We say it every day. We do it every day on this show. He's past Kobe. We would agree with that, right? He's past Magic Johnson. His legacy is cemented.
It's the narcissism in him. It's the narcissism in him.
Well, what if the narcissism in him wants to be a billionaire, wants to be a owner of a team?
He's going to do that no matter what.
He can do that in Cleveland. I feel it would be accelerated in the entertainment capital of the world. We know he's into movies.
There's 2 teams there. That's what I'm saying. So I could see him doing.
Clippers brand has been a roller coaster.
So what's the point of going to the Lakers when you have pretty much the same type of players in Cleveland now?
Because the Lakers have a series of young, talented, cheap players. People really are in on Luke Walton.
Okay.
Doc Rivers is a little divided. The way I look at, listen, we have a history here. That if you're great, you can kind of do a Brett Favre last couple years. You can do a Johnny Unitas out in L.A.
Last couple years. This is his whole career. LeBron James is going to be known for city hopping. That's his career legacy. I think it actually trumps his legacy as a winner, is that he just hopped from city to city. Cleveland, Miami, Cleveland again, and now probably L.A.
Did we forget Charles Barkley played in Philly?
No, Charles Barkley's not LeBron James.
Did we forget Karl Malone chased a ring with the Lakers at the end of his career?
That's at the end of his career. He
The
put
last
15,
year.
16
Come
years
on.
together in
This is
Utah.
a different league than it was in the 80s.
I get it. No. I get it. It's different. I'm just saying, is that a great legacy?
Okay. It used to be divorce was a stigma. If you say I'm divorced, nobody cares. A lot of people are
Is
divorced.
that a good thing?
I'm not saying it's a good thing. That's the reality thing. It's the same with mobility.
Yeah.
Like, mobility is not a stigma anymore.
I just feel he should stay in Cleveland. You know, finish out your career in Cleveland, build that legacy. And I think that would enhance his legacy overall.
What more could he do in Cleveland, Olden? He went back
Win
to
another-
City
win another title.
He said he was going to win one. He did.
No, how
He's
about
done.
winning a title with less talent?
Oh, jeez. Are you
How about that one?
serious?
Yes, how about
Hey,
that one?
let's just take
Win
away
with less
LeBron's
talent.
great players and see what he can do then. Maybe then you'll.
A
Come on.
second title in Cleveland and finishing it. Look, man, Joe Montana was devastated when he had to leave San Francisco. Peyton Manning didn't like leaving Indianapolis. Again, when you're in that all-time great conversation, I just don't know if this new legacy and new normal that he's establishing, I don't know if it's that great.
I don't know if it's great either. I think his brand has been established. People are just going to say, second best player of all time. And I think that's what it is. I don't think he'll ever surpass
Who's
Jordan.
going to say that?
Who isn't saying that?
You and I? You don't
no,
He's going to be second best no matter what.
Man, you got Kareem.
If he comes to L.A., he's still going to have to live up to Kobe's.
Well, yeah,
I
but
just don't think he's
legacy.
leaped over Kareem yet. I don't know if I'm not sure if I'm really ready all the way there
So
over
would
Magic
he if he
Johnson.
stayed in Cleveland and won another title?
If he won another title in Cleveland, then I think he's the second greatest. It's a stronger argument.
Yeah.
But again, and I don't know, man. Kareem and Michael that's a hard.
So he goes to Philadelphia and wins the title. Then what? Is he on par with Kobe? I mean, we're being a little silly here, are we not?
No,
I mean, you go to the Lakers in the
okay.
entertainment capital of the world.
Okay, let me ask
LeBron's
you.
global.
Do you have him above Rudy Gay at this point?
Check with me tomorrow.
To San Antonio, where Kawhi Leonard said today that he hopes to return soon from the quad injury that has sidelined him most of the year, and added that he wants to finish his career in San Antonio, despite reports of a feud with the team over how they handle his injury. Whitlock, could Kawhi possibly salvage this season?
This season is a little tough. I mean, because the Jordan brand and him have split up.
Yes.
His brand has been damaged a bit. Pop has had to crack the whip, for lack of a better term, to prod him back into playing this year. Having said all that, I fully expect next season Kawhi Leonard will be back as one of the 2 or 3 best two-way players in the league, one of the 5 best players in the league, and will be seen as a key figure in pushing San Antonio back into the championship hunt or second place to Golden State or whatever. But this season, salvage, he's had a rough year.
Listen, an NBA season's a little like a movie. You can't be a great movie with a bad finish. You can't be a great team with a lousy playoff finish. But majority of the movie is laid out in the regular season.
Oh, definitely.
I don't think he can salvage it, and I'll tell you why. I think what this year's done for Kawhi, it has validated his reputation as odd. He was always an incredibly reluctant star. Every other star's got a brand. They talk, they're verbal. He's the reluctant star.
Yeah.
This year validated that.
And you know what else happened? The chink in the armor appeared in San Antonio for the first time. We've never seen that before. They've always been able to keep everything in-house. And I think really what it comes down to with Kawhi is as simple as this. They are questioning my heart, and I'm upset about it. Because Tony Parker had the same injury. And so now here you go, the trainers and the coach, everybody's saying, we've never seen anything like this before. You know, we've never seen this injury take this long before. Right. And so now I think that really affected Kawhi.
Is it irreparable? Could it ever?
I believe it is.
So he'll never.
I don't think he's gonna probably do his contract, and then I think he's leaving.
He said he wants to retire.
Yeah, he did say at practice today he wants to retire as Spur. But I just want to add this: he's up for the Supermax extension this offseason, $217 million. Okay, this is a guy, and I'm going to preface this. We bag on LeBron if he sits out a couple games. Kawhi Leonard has never played more than 75 games in a season. This is his 7th year in the league. There is some question, and I've talked with Broussard about this at length, around the league. Is Kawhi Leonard a little soft? He's never played 75 games in a season, and now you want to give him the Supermax?
Okay,
I think there's something up here that...
No, I think that's a very interesting point. Here's the other thing. Because he's not a passer, he doesn't elevate teammates. That Supermax can't just be about you dropping 24. He
Well,
doesn't.
I disagree with that. Passing's not good, but playing defense on the other end
does.
elevate your other teammates. Not being a high maintenance guy that has to have the ball in your hands all the time does elevate your other teammates.
That's Tony Parker's job. That's the point guard's job. Deontay Murray, those guys. It's their job to pass
Would
the
you
ball.
pay him max money?
I wouldn't pay anybody max money.
Kevin Durant.
I've always been under that, we all overpaid. Okay? That's always been my philosophy. I don't care. Athletes, we all overpay. But take the money if you can get it. But I just don't feel that he's a max. I mean, he's a superstar, but the money is, it's ridiculous right now. But I do believe that he is a great player. And I think the defense, as Jason said, that's what elevates him more than anything else. He is uber defense.
At the same time, let me ask. He's been played only 9 games this year. Has James Harden passed him as one of the better players in the league?
Yes,
I would say so. Has Anthony Davis passed? I mean, Anthony Davis right now is carrying a bad Pelican team to the playoff.
I don't agree with that.
I think Damian Lillard is
Harden
off
was
the charts.
already above him.
I think it was
He
close.
rose up to that level.
Where is
Kawhi?
Kawhi?
Rose up to the level.
Where is
I think
Kawhi
that's
Leonard
the question.
today?
No. I think Jason's made extra points about his durability and never playing more than 35 games. Again, right now he's out of the top 10. I expect him back next year motivated and back in that conversation as a top 5 guy.
Welcome back, D'Angelo Hall, Jason Sehorn. Here they are, and let's move to the NFL Combine, which is kind of a fun watch. A couple of Heisman winners with questions dogging them, Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson. Mayfield's outsized personality on display this past weekend. One NFL head coach called him, quote, over-the-top cocky. Jackson, meanwhile, refused to run the 40 after some people around the league suggested he switched from quarterback to wide receiver. Whitlock, which one of these guys to you is the riskier pick?
Look, I'm already on record. I don't like short quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield is short. However, there's so much political discussion hovering around Lamar Jackson. And so the discussion about him isn't a football discussion and could potentially just become problematic. And, him being represented by his mother as his agent for the time being, I consider Lamar Jackson riskier than Baker Mayfield.
See, I think Baker's a first-round quarterback pick. You whiff on that as a GM, you're selling your home. You're out of work.
No way.
Listen, in this league, what happens to teams that whiff on quarterbacks? What happened to the Vikings?
It happens all the time.
I know, but what happened to the Viking staff after they whiffed on Christian Ponder? What happened to the Tennessee staff after the wave? You can whiff on a third-round quarterback. Lamar's a third-round quarterback.
I'm not sure about that.
You think he's going first round?
No, but so hold on. We're talking about Baker Mayfield, who went to the playoffs twice, okay, won the Heisman Trophy, put up numbers, production, won football games. I'm sorry, but I watched the games, and his team likes him. They play with him. I don't hear a bunch of discord from the players. Yes. Is he arrogant? Yeah, he's arrogant. Does he do some dumb things? Yeah, he's done some dumb things. He is a kid. In college, we did those things. Unfortunately, they're videotaped now. We talked about it earlier. But production, how do you overlook production? If you take a flyer on Baker Mayfield based on the production of what he's done at Oklahoma and he doesn't pan out, that's on Baker Mayfield, not on you. He did. He tested the way you thought he would. He ran this, he jumped that, he threw that. He looked good, okay? I don't have a problem with him. I don't have a problem if you whiff on Baker Mayfield. Now, Lamar Jackson, you better have a very good coach to teach him quarterback, because I don't think that he's had a good quarterback coach. Look at some of the players in the league when they have good quarterback coaches can teach him. Because right now, I don't think he throws the ball that accurate. And I'm sorry, that's the quarterback's job.
I disagree.
You think he's accurate?
I disagree. I'm with Colin. Just like he said, Baker Mayfield will be a top 10 pick. If you get that wrong, your job is probably on the line. And again, you say Lamar Jackson, you don't know about how he could fit into a pro-style offense, kind of, you reworded it.
Sitting in the pocket.
I reworded it a different way, but essentially that's what you're saying. I don't know how Baker Mayfield can fit in a pro-style offense. They run very similar offenses. I was with Bobby Petrino in Atlanta. Did not like him. Still do not like him. But the man knows offenses. He knows how to teach guys how to throw that ball. And so I trust him as a quarterback, groomer. So I would take Lamar Jackson before I took Baker Mayfield. Even with that pick being said, I would take him because I know Bobby Petrino has coached this kid up.
Let's look at the mock drafts. Let's take an average. The average mock draft has Baker Mayfield getting taken 8, 9, 10, 12.
10, just say 10.
The average mock draft has Lamar like late second, early third. He's everybody's second or third pick. So let's just say that's true. You take him third. If you already hit you got a first round pick, you took a star. Your second round pick's it. By your third pick in the draft, if Kirk Cousins didn't pan out in Washington,
it wasn't a big deal.
RG3 didn't pan out. The owner didn't like the coach. The coach is gone. The son has to leave. I think if you butcher first 10 picks, that's why Bill Polian's a legend. Bill Polian whiffed on a lot of picks. And he never whiffed on his first picks.
Baker's going to have high expectations where Lamar's not. He's going to have time to even grow and mature even more. Like, we talked about quarterbacks acting a certain way. I just don't know how I would feel about a guy like Baker Mayfield in my locker room and just the way he's perceived. I don't know him, so I can't sit here and say, he's this or that or that. Just the stuff I've read and the stuff I've seen. Like I said, if he was a corner, I'd love him to death. Give him to me. I love the confidence. But at the quarterback position, you almost got to be a politician.
You do.
Okay,
you have to tread that line very.
Let's take that locker room thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I agree with you in the NFL locker room, the environment. If he steps in, he better step in humbly. Okay?
Yeah.
You're walking into a locker room with grown men with families and children who've been doing this for a long time. He was at Oklahoma. He was a senior. He's a 2-time walk-on. You're talking about he's got the biggest chip on his shoulder. So, yeah, he's got a little bit of – that's going to have to go away. That cockiness/arrogance that he had in college that got him through, he's got to, shed some of that when he walks in that locker room. He better be humble. You cannot walk in there as the first-round Heisman Trophy pick being arrogant and cocky. You got to earn your stripes. So, to your point, he has to come in a little different than what he did at Oklahoma. I'm not holding that against him, though. I think, the kid had to play with a chip on his shoulder to get through what he got through, and he won. Lamar didn't win. Baker won.
I just know it's hard for guys to turn that off and on.
Yes. No, it is.
That is who he is. So to think he's going to change overnight because he's walking into a different locker room, I just find that hard to believe.
Don't they always say money and alcohol just make you more of what you are?
More of what you are.
So if Baker's cocky, it's not like he's getting a $12 million check and he's going to be a pastor of a church. Yeah. I think he is what he is.
Elsewhere at the Combine, Penn State defensive back Troy Apke ran a 4.35 40, which impressed a lot of people, including one of the fastest guys to ever play the game, Deion Sanders, who for some reason was absolutely shocked by the performance.
This is Troy Apke.
Oh, man, he can run.
Why are you surprised, Dan?
Oh, you know why I'm surprised? I can't say it on TV, but he can run.
He was a track guy.
Right.
He was a track guy. But you're saying it with the
You don't
tone.
see that much.
You're saying it in tone.
Let's call it what it is. I like that,
He
man.
just ran 4.35.
Hey, man, let me go hug him.
At 215 pounds.
I'm going to hug him. Hey, man, that was good, man. You can run.
Excuse me, 200 pounds.
I try. How are you, man? Good job.
All right, Colin, was Deion's reaction funny or borderline inappropriate?
It was fine to me because I think the NFL Combine, it's a very loose broadcast. This is not a it's not a White House press briefing. Rich Eisen's a witty guy. It's live. It's the underwear Olympics. Rich Eisen at one point gets down and runs a 40.
Yep.
It's kind of it's not a game. The draft is serious. Games are serious. This is the least serious NFL broadcast of the week. I give the broadcasters in the moment a little leeway on comments.
I'm going to be quick because I want to hear Jason Sehorn's take, and we won't explain why. But I thought it was funny, and I thought it was borderline inappropriate because most funny things are borderline inappropriate.
Point. I'll give you that. The only problem I have with it is because the white kid runs a 4.35, you give him a hug and make a big deal out of it. But every brother that ran a 4.32 or 4.3 before, you don't give them a hug. Why not? Because it was expected? That was unexpected? The kid's an athlete. He runs fast. I just don't understand why it's an anomaly or something different when a white kid does it. It's Deion's shock that he ran a 4.35 was that's the part that's borderline inappropriate. It is fun. It is loose. It is the underwear Olympics. That's what it's all about. It's about going out there and doing things you can never do on a football field anyway because you're wearing a helmet and shoulder pads.
But Jason, you played in a locker room environment since you were a kid. That kind of joke that Deion, that's commonplace.
It is, but it's commonplace in the locker room. And I say something, the jokes that I had and the things that I was able to say to my teammates could never leave the locker room. Things I could say, like if it was, like for myself, for most of my 10 years, it was me and 9 other black guys in our DB room. Our banter and camaraderie in that locker room could not leave to the streets. We couldn't go outside because then if I said it was disrespectful, they felt like the people who hurt us didn't understand the context, didn't understand our relationship. There's no card that I get to say what I want to say in public. In our locker room, I can say whatever I want to say.
Yeah, but
they know where I'm coming from.
But that's what makes it inappropriate. It's just today's society.
Yes.
Today's society puts a filter on you. All my 14 years of playing in the NFL, I had probably one white guy in my defensive backfield, and it was in D.C., but he played about 4 or 5 years. His name was Reed Dowdy. Great player. He was the guy that took Sean Taylor's spot when Sean was killed. And so he had big shoes to fill, but he was a baller. He was a baller. And there were things we said in that room that we probably wouldn't have said outside of the room, just knowing what other people would say.
Yeah,
not that Reed was offended or not that we got offended by some of the banter back and forth. So,
but you can't control everybody else.
No, you can't control what other people perceive your message to be. And so, was it borderline inappropriate? Probably so, but it's just because today's society,
like
we're walking on pins and needles.
Did you see the movie White Men Can't Jump?
Yeah.
Again,
We've
gone from being able to make movies like that to like Deion can't crack a joke.
Yeah.
By the way, the producer of that movie never saw Tom Chambers or Danny Vernis. They were two of my favorite players.
All right, time for last call. Let's move to Pittsburgh, where the Steelers used a franchise tag on Le'Veon Bell for the second straight year, which prompted a disgruntled response from the running back, who tweeted a link to his record-setting yards from scrimmage average, adding, quote, "What more I gotta do to be wanted?" In fairness to the Steelers, Bell turned down a long-term deal worth about $13 million per year. Cowherd, was Bell crazy to turn down that deal?
Yes, Steelers have a great O-line, a Hall of Fame quarterback, 2 tremendous receivers.
He's injury prone.
And he's been suspended twice. Like $13 million a year is right near the top. I think he wants to be the highest paid. Dude, you've been suspended twice. You have to understand, a lot of people, that freaks some people out.
For a running back, $13 million a year, that's damn near Garoppolo money. All right, to the Rockets, who got big games out of Chris Paul and James Harden to beat the Thunder last night, extending their win streak to 16, tying the Celtics for the longest in the NBA this season. Cowherd, as I told you last week, the Rockets are the team that I thought could sweep out the rest of the season. You remember me telling you that?
I do.
Some people thought I misspoke and said Cavaliers, but I was actually talking about the Rockets. Am I right here?
Actually, I think Milwaukee will beat them. I thought last night was a highly emotional win. Everybody's talking about it today. It was the game of note. It's probably their biggest game of the season discussed. And I think they're going to come out against Milwaukee, a team.
I'm going to give you 5 points, and we'll put our Mastros dinner that you still owe me on.
I get Milwaukee at home in 5?
And 5.
Woo! Yeah. I can taste the butter on that steak.
It ain't.
My God.
Cowherd.
Man.
Rockets.
Couple beers, baked potato.